without further ado, this is Spark, and I would like to welcome Ashwin to the stage. So, the one thing to note is that Ashwin's actually not living in Virginia right now. We have a grant called Funders and Founders in Residence, and so he's going to be with us for a couple of days talking to classes. So, with that, here is the mic.
Well, as he's doing that, thanks Alex for that kind introduction. Like Alex said, my name is Ashwinraj Karthikeyan, but since that's a mouthful, we'll just go with Ashwin for short. And I just graduated this May as an aerospace engineering student. Engineer, I guess now officially. And went promptly full-time on my startup, InMedBio, which is a medical device startup. We're developing wound care dressings for patients with a condition called a chronic wound. So these types of wounds are very, very easily infected, have a complex, high-maintenance healing process, and last for a very, very long time. The patients we're actually dealing with sometimes have these wounds on their body for a period of years. So just a terrible scenario all around. And it's especially bad in emerging markets where we're actually focused. And the reason is patients can't afford the traditional treatments we take for granted here. So things like skin grafts and glucose control are just too expensive for these patients. So they have to rely on this vicious cycle of frequent infections and amputations. And the products that they're using are very substandard. They're usually gauzes or ointments that don't really do anything, don't fulfill the healthcare requirements, and have to be changed sometimes multiple times a day. So the solution, it's actually our patent-pending innovation. It's called Phoenix Aid, and it's a multi-layer wound site dressing that's essentially designed to accelerate the healing of the wound, block infections to the wound, comfort the wound, and be highly durable and cost-effective. But I'm not here today to really talk about my startup. I'm really here to tell you about my journey, like Alex asked me to do. And so where that comes from is I really wanted to share 4 stories, one from each of my years at UVA, and sort of like a moral lesson, I guess you could call it, that I sort of picked up from doing things wrong, basically. And hopefully, you'll take something from it and not repeat the same mistakes I did. And I wanted to start with this picture. There you go. Kevin's face is so big. So you guys already saw this picture, and so like Alex said, this is one of my first weeks at UVA, and I was in this room because I saw a flyer that said, "Do you want to win $20,000?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's actually pretty cool. I want to do that." And so I already sort of had this idea for the technology I was working on. It was obviously very different. I was like, I'll come do this competition and wipe the floor. I was very cocky like that. That didn't happen. Kevin actually won. And that's mostly because my presentation sucked and his was amazing. And so I learned something that day. A couple things. First of all, you have to learn from failures. This was the first of many, many, many failures. A lot of setbacks, things I did wrong, a lot of pivots. But something else I learned is you can learn from other people's successes. So I looked at what Kevin did right, what I did wrong, and started using that to help me, design and work better on my technology and improve what I was doing. And as we move into second year, I want to show you this. So this is a picture of probably the world's worst business card. It was also my first business card. And for some reason, I thought to talk to people, you need the business card, because I didn't know any better. And so I made 500 of these and started handing them out like candy at different events and speaker events and galas and things around Charlottesville. What I quickly realized is I didn't A, need the card, and B, if I just started talking to people, people were very apt to listen. They like to share their stories and see if there's any commonalities. And especially older people, like mentors, professors, people in the Charlottesville community who are, established entrepreneurs. They were very excited to talk to young students like me at the time, actually share their experience and give advice. And this is great for me because at that time, this is my second year at UVA, we'd only raised about $1,000 worth of grants. And when you divide it by all the man hours I'd spent on the project at that point, it comes to maybe like 5 cents an hour. So it really wasn't worthwhile in that certain sense. But what I learned from this is networking. A lot of people, at least like people like me, think that networking is something that's a really big deal. You have to be on like LinkedIn or go to like formal events. But what it really means is, you talk to the person in your Starbucks line. You talk to the person sitting next to you on the airplane. You just share stories, and it's so helpful. And you meet some really cool people and make some really great friends. And speaking of great friends, Jack Ross is sitting down there, a great friend of mine. He actually told me about this during my third year. So this is a competition that he had applied for, and was gracious enough to tell me about it, even though we'd be competing against each other. And it's called the WeWork Creator Awards. Now, the unfortunate thing is, I learned about this competition about 5 hours before it was due. And so, I was sitting in my dorm room with a bunch of my friends. We were all about to go to a movie, and I decided, you know what, screw it. I'll stay home and actually, spend, my weekend working on this instead of going to a movie. Just 5 hours of my life will happen. And I'm so glad I did that, because this is the first major award we won. It was for $36,000. It's a terrible picture, but it says so up there. For $36,000, and for something I would never have been able to do if I hadn't taken advantage of that golden opportunity. It's very rare to get that lucky, but the thing is, you have to use that luck. I've noticed a lot of people, they have these opportunities or they notice things, but sometimes they decide, you know what, it's not worth the effort. The thing is, you really have to take chances with entrepreneurship. You really have to hustle, and that's something I learned I wish I'd learned it earlier on, but it's something that I've really taken to heart. And now we move on to fourth year. So essentially, after all of that, that WeWork grant, I was in a dry spell. I hadn't actually won anything, and I was actually really struggling with my startup. A lot of that was due to the fact that I wasn't actually focusing on my startup as much. I didn't really know how to move forward. And so I did something that I really wish I'd done years ago, and I really started to look at my betters. There's probably a better way to say this. It's basically looking at people that had already done this before. And so for me, it was pretty easy, because there's two guys. One's Kevin, and one's Pine, who's also going to be talking later today. And so this is, pictures that you already saw of them winning the ACC Venture Cup. But essentially what I did is I nagged them constantly and consistently for a very long time to get a lot of advice and feedback on what I was doing wrong and what I should be focusing on. At this point, they're both established entrepreneurs and gone full-time on their companies and raised money. And it was really great for me. And it worked too. Because like Alex said, we not only picked home first place earlier this year, but we also got the People's Choice Award, which is pretty cool because this was at Georgia Tech, so we actually beat out the home crowd. And so, if you got nothing else from my little talk here, I want to just focus on four things. The first of all, Alex harps on this a lot, but it actually is really important. UVA is a great community, and it's not just UVA, it's a Charlottesville community as a whole. There are so many established entrepreneurs, VCs, investors, mentors, peers, just people that you can go towards for resources and help. And it's very, very important that you do so because they are really willing to help you out. The other thing, and this is actually something very important, especially for your first and second years, UVA is a place that you can take risks safely. So this may seem a bit counterintuitive, but for me, the first 2 years just working on this, we made maybe, I think, $2,000 with the grant money. So that's not that much. And it's really, if I had a full-time job or I was doing this outside of school, it really doesn't make any sense for me to be putting in all this effort for really no gain. And so it's not something I could have really done outside of the university landscape. But since I was at university, getting a degree on, on the side, entrepreneurship number one, getting a degree on the side, I could take that risk. And so it paid off because now we've raised well over $150,000 with the grants going full-time and raising our seed round. So it worked out, but that was because, I could take those risks in a sort of safer spot. And the third thing is, sort of, a lot of people don't realize this, but UVA is very diverse and accessible. The reason I picked UVA over all the other engineering schools I was considering is because you actually have the ability to go and talk to a lot of different classes. So I actually ended up taking classes in Darden, the Curry School, in Baton, music classes, other classes in engineering. And what this really helped me do is learn different types of perspectives, meet some very cool, interesting people. And that really helped shape both me and my startup to what it is today. And the last thing is, and this is a bit corny, but essentially now you're part of the extended family, and this is very important. So, like Liz, Alex, and Professor Carlson were saying, it doesn't matter if you do something now or you decide to do it 10 years down the line. Wahoo's are for life. And so, reach out to alumni, reach out to people but just remember, you're part of the family, there's always people there to support you. So with that, wahoo up, and thank you for your time.